Hello and welcome back. You'll notice for math today, we are going to need a plain white piece of paper. If you notice, plain typing piece of paper. Okay, if you have one at home, go get one, or it could be lined piece of paper. That's what you need. Students at school, hopefully your teacher has given you one. When you get your paper, I want you to go ahead and fold it in half. Okay, so I folded it in half. Let me go ahead and see if I can get the camera up a little bit higher for us. All right, so I think I've got the camera working here. So we've taken the piece of paper, we folded it in half like this. Let's get this out of the way. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take this and I'm going to fold this up here like this. I'm going to kind of fold it where I think I have it here in half. Okay, and then I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold it over like this. Okay, the reason why we're doing this is because when you open up your piece of paper, I need for you to have 6 boxes. Okay, so go ahead, and if you need to pause your video so you can get those boxes folded for me, that would be great. All right, so like I said, once you're done, we're going to go ahead, and I made my lines on here to make my 6 boxes. So if you guys can go ahead and make those lines on there, that would be great. And we're going to put something inside each box today for math. Okay. So the very first box we're going to do up here in this corner, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to zoom the camera back down here so we can see what we're going to put in here. Get that straight. All right, so the very first box up here, we're going to write the words percent to fraction. All right, so we're going to look at how we change a percent to a fraction. We're going to make a little note here. So for example, if we have this percent here, 75%, in order to change a percent to a fraction, we always take that percent and we put it over 100. Okay, so I've gone from percent to fraction. Now, some of you actually know how to reduce this, and if you do, you can go ahead and simplify that. Some of us know that actually that can reduce to 3/4. Okay, but 75% as a fraction can either be this or this. All right, let's move on to our next box. The next box we're going to do right over here is we're going to actually take the percent and we're going to change it to a decimal. Okay, well, let's take our percent again. Here's our percent, 75%. And in order to change a percent to a decimal, we actually move our decimal 2 places. So, for example, we have the number here, 75. Okay, if I put the decimal right here, this is still 75, correct? Well, in order to make it a decimal, we take it and we move that decimal 2 places to the left. And so it would be, our decimals here, 75, and we usually put a 0 to show that there's no whole number. So in order to go from a percent to a decimal, let's right here move the decimal. Oh, let's see if I can get this right here. Move the decimal 2 places to the left. Okay, took the decimal 2 places to the left. All right, let's go on to our next box. The next box we're going to write is we're going to write decimal to a percent. Okay, decimal to a percent. Well, let's say the decimal that I'm going to give to you is this one, which is 8/10. Well, in order to go from a decimal to a percent, we're going to kind of do the opposite of what we did up here. We're going to move the decimal. Let's go ahead and write this down. Two places. This time we're going to go to the right. Okay, well, here's my number. So I'm going to move this. If I move it 2 places to the right, let's see. Let's write it right here so we can see what I'm going to do. Move it 2 places to the right would be 1, 2. Well, if I have to move 2 places, there's nothing here, so I'm going to have to add a 0. So I have here the decimal here, so my answer is going to be 80%. And you'll do a little practice with this in class on some mark boards. All right, let's go to the next box. Our next box here says we're going to move from a decimal Oh, I wrote 2 instead of my arrow. Oh well, we'll say 2 fraction. We're going to move from a decimal to a fraction. Here's my decimal. Can you read the decimal? If you read the decimal says 8/10. Well, how would you write 8/10? You'd write it like this. So we'll just put a little note here to say read the decimal. 8/10. 8/10. All right, we're moving down to the next boxes, last 2 boxes. So the last one we have here is a fraction. We're going to change a fraction to a decimal. Okay. Well, if I give you the fraction 1/5, I have to change that to a decimal. Well, the only way to change that to a decimal is we have to divide the top number by the bottom. So that means I have to take 1 and I have to divide it by 5. So if I take 1 and I divide it by 5, well, 5 can't go into 1, so I'm going to have to add a decimal here with a 0. 5 can't go into 1, but 5 can go into 10. Let's carry my decimal up here 2 times. And so I have the decimal 2/10. And the last box we're going to look at is a fraction to a percent. Fraction to a percent. Well, if I have here my fraction 1/4, I want to change 1/4 to a percent. Well, we know that a percent always, always, always goes over 100. So now we have a proportion and we solve our proportion. So in order to solve my proportion, I could either cross multiply and divide, or I could multiply this direction, and I should be able to find out that my answer is going to equal 25%. I probably would do here times 25 here and times 25 here. All right, so we're going to actually do some practice problems. What I'd like for you to do first is I'd like for you guys to go ahead and open up your math book for me real quick. All right, and we're going to open up here to, it's still lesson 25. It is S111. 111. All right, so we're going to fill in this real quick to kind of practice a little bit before you guys do some practice in your classroom. All right, so we have here the fraction 1/8. We want to change 1/8 to a decimal, and we want to change it to a percent. So let's go ahead and do our decimal. Now remember, in order to change a fraction to a decimal, let's look here. fraction to a decimal, we have to divide the top number by the bottom number. So that means I have to take 1 and I have to divide it by 8. Well, if I would come down here, got some empty space down here, and I could do 1 divided by 8. Oh dear, 8 does not go into 1, does it? So let's go ahead and add a decimal 0 here. Let's see, 8 does go into 10 one time. And if I subtract, oh, we have a 2. Looks like I have to add another 0. Does 8 go into 20? It looks like it goes in there twice, which is 16. Oh, it looks like I still have to go another 0 spot. Let's see. Oh, 8 goes into 40 evenly 5 times. So we had to do a little division here in order to solve our problem. So we found out that 1/8 is a decimal. We have here tenths, hundreds, thousands, 125 thousandths. Oh, easy to go from a decimal to a percent. Remember, decimal to a percent, we move the decimal 2 places to the right. All right, so let's move it 2 places to the right. 1, 2. So that means we have 12 and 5/10 percent. All right, so here's our decimal. Remember, decimal to percent, move it 2 places. 35%. How do I write a percent as a fraction? Oh, percent always goes over 100. Now, some of you know how to simplify that. Okay, we know that 5 goes into both of them, so I could simplify that. All right. Oh, percent to a decimal. Let's go look. Percent to a decimal. Move the decimal 2 places to the left. Here's my decimal. 2 places to the left would be, my decimal would go here. And I'm going to go put a 0 for my whole number. Let's see. I don't like decimal on a, I know that percent goes over 100. Well, if I have this, we don't like the decimal there. We need to get rid of it, don't we? Well, yesterday we noticed if we added a decimal like this, now we have this, 100 didn't change, it's still 100, but now I could move my decimal 1 place here and 1 place here. Boy, this is a top-heavy fraction. Oh, look at that. This says 845 thousandths, and that says 845 thousandths. All right, so let's go ahead and leave that. Change our decimal to a percent, 2 places. So we have 32 and 5/10%. If I read this, this says 325 thousandths. 325 thousandths. Now, obviously, we could simplify that, but let's go ahead and do our last one here. We have to change this fraction to a decimal to a percent. All right, so in order to go from a fraction to a decimal, it's the top number divided by the bottom. In order to go from a fraction to a percent, I might want to do that. Let's look at this. Fraction to a percent. I take my fraction, and percent always goes over 100. So let's take this fraction. Here's my fraction. And percent always goes over 100. Oh, now I have a proportion I can solve. Oh, I know that 25 goes into 100 4 times. So I now know that 2 times 4 is 8. So I have here 8%. To go from a percent to a decimal, let's look, we forgot. Percent to a decimal, move the decimal 2 places to the left. All right, this is the number 8. So if I put the decimal there, that's still an 8. 2 places to the left. I'm going to have to add a 0 there. So my decimal would be this. And I can put a 0 right there. All right, so hopefully you guys kind of understand a little bit of this. Hopefully this paper will help you. I'm sure your teachers will probably do a little bit of marker board practice with you.